Welcome to episode 76 of Formidable Opponents, a show that pits three people who have known each other virtually their entire lives in a series of conversations as we argue what is best in a variety of fun, engaging, and critical pop culture topics we all debate about. I'm Randall, and with me as always, Bob and Joseph, and this week's topic is most overrated 90s band. I want to see how many people I can piss off. Alexa, play the Spin Doctors. Hopefully they all came back. Okay, so anyway, 90s music, the trends were wide-ranging, a sound, a look, an eclectic feel that not only catered to the disillusioned and the apathetic, but also jostled the categorical barricades of genres. We're all fused now, for in the 90s, pop, rock, hip-hop, soul, urban, contemporary R&B, and G-funk were now blended and intertwined. Our palettes were now abundant, and our tastes more diverse. However, like any influx, sometimes absorbing too much can be a little too much to handle. In the 80s, one of our primary focuses were bands that looked like they stepped out of the public restroom of an alien spaceship. See Motley Crue. In the 90s, we had bands that looked like public restroom attendants on alien spaceships. See Daft Punk. We had musical acts that were as outlandish as the preceding decade, a tip of the cap to us common folk. We diversified the 90s. That decade was for everyone. A bald man with a rat tail may have screamed out, "I alone," but you, sir, were never alone. Although the decade accepted many with arms wide open, we closed our collective souls and began to pray that some bands would just fade out and go away. Too much can oftentimes be enough. And although that last upholder of monoculture that was the 90s opened the floodgates for many, it was apparent that selective processing also had its merits. Now, this is not an episode where we are dissing subjectively shitty bands. Some of these bands we liked. Some of these bands, their careers have spanned decades. This episode is focusing on their 90s output only. There's no scorn here, but in retrospect, we should have seen the sign and realized that sustainability was not these artists' strong suit. This week, Formidable Opponents debates most overrated 90s band. As always, I'm joined by two princes who can't be wrong. Call back to the opener. Bob and Joseph, how are you guys doing?
Wow, you used your tongue prettier than a $20 whore.
I struggled through that, man. How are you? Welcome back. Go ahead, Joseph.
You got a little tongue tied.
I'm gonna tell everybody at home right now, if you're listening to this and it sounded pristine and whatnot, that's because Randy fucking edited the shit out of that. He screwed up so many times. It's like it's a callback to our first episode. But again, like I said, if you heard it all perfectly, just so you know, he edited that shit.
Magic of editing. You don't know how many times I had to say
he's a liar.
You know how many times I had to say artisanship to get it right?
He said artichoke and all kind of okedobe. I don't know. He said all kinds of shit. Artisan bread.
Artie.
But he's hungry.
To you listeners, you're gonna hear nothing but clarity.
I know, right? It was clear. It's gonna be all perfect and shit. Never mind. Anyway,
what's up? He sounded wonderful. He sounded beautiful.
What's up, everybody?
So what's going on, everybody? What's going on, Bob and Joseph? Long time no see. We're only contractually obligated to talk on this show. So, how are you guys feeling?
Oh, I feel wonderful. I feel old. I turned, that's a little bit of my birthday last week, 38. I'm feeling a little old, but feeling pretty good. Yeah, thanks a lot, man. But I'm feeling pretty good, dude. I was excited. I've been waiting to get back on this show. We had a lot of, we got to spend a lot of time with our family and friends. I had a nice little break for New Year's and my birthday and, for everything. So it's been really nice to be away, but I just couldn't wait to get back on our show, man, and talk a little trash with y'all.
I'm very proud of myself. I actually saw some pretty decent movies, and I should have watched more. Chocolate.
No,
I saw Old.
So I was
Hustle.
Asked, I'm sure you guys were asked many times, when are we coming back? I was asked many times, when are you guys going to do a show? Mainly by my wife, because I would always fall asleep during the White Lotus. So she's like, when are you going to stop snoring and go do your damn show? Which is a great show, by the way. I finally finished it.
I like the White Lotus. I was just going to say, I got to see the first two seasons. Pretty good.
Yeah, great show. And then of course we delayed a day because there was a playoff game last night that I know Joseph was particularly interested in. Very much so. What's up with Mar and the Yips, man? Mahar or whatever his name is. Mahar.
Brett Mahar. Dude, that was interesting, man. I mean, exactly. And I said it last night, and I don't want to get into this because it's not what we're here to talk about, but I said, you know what? You just got to fucking run with it. You just got to keep going until he gets one right. And he didn't get the opportunity. You live and die by it. You send him out there, hopefully he makes got to get through it, man. That's just like with Randy in his monologue. You just got to keep going. I mean, I know, like I said, it sounded perfect, but it wasn't. Very much wasn't.
I would say this,
bro. It's out. Keep kicking, Rand.
Very much shades of the 1994 NBA Finals. Nick Anderson, the Orlando Magic were up by 3 against the Houston Rockets. Nick Anderson gets fouled, misses 2 free throws, gets the rebound on the second one, gets fouled again, misses the next 2 free throws. Kenny Smith makes a 3-pointer, puts it into overtime. Hakeem Olajuwon scores a basket. Nick Anderson was never the same. They got swept that year. Nick Anderson wasn't as good. So I'm a little worried about next week. I know we're not here to talk football, but it's going to be interesting to see how he rebounds.
He missed 4. Yes, that sucks. But he got one. He got the last one, and it went straight through the middle. So
he got the right.
He either got his shit together, or I don't know. I'm not worried about it. He's had a great year. It's just, hey man, any given day, any given Sunday, you can have a horrible, shitty 4 interception game or 4 missed PATs. I mean, it just happens.
So next week we got Dallas at San Francisco. We're all looking forward to that. But let's move on to music.
It's gonna be a great game.
We've done our sports portion. So guys, opening questions. There aren't necessarily, so all these bands that we're talking about, very successful. They're not necessarily bad bands or bands that we hate. Well, some of them, right? But give your definition of an overrated band in terms of this subject. What does overrated mean to you?
People give them too much credit, like, oh my God, these guys were just amazing and they dominated the 90s when really maybe they had a couple of good songs, or they had, one decent album, and everybody makes it seem out to be like, oh man, that they were this great band and they dominated and they put out, 3 or 4 albums. They were all, big hitters, that kind of thing. But it was, just a band that had a couple of good songs. And we see that a lot. All these bands we're going to talk about are not one-hit wonders, and they've all had multiple hits. So that's a great thing for them, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they dominated the 90s, or they're like the best of the 90s.
100% agree with you, sir. I typed out as far as this, question, I put too much credit, basically, basically being being a mediocre band or pretty much in line with what, everybody else was doing at the same time, or what else was popular. They're not bad bands. They were just, that's our definition of, or what we consider overrated, or what we use to answer this question. Randy, what did you think?
I agree with, I think overplayed. I think bands whose music is just as 90s to the core as anything else. When you listen to a band and say, oh yeah, that's a 90s band, and they don't transcend a period of time past that decade, I think you start to sort of pigeonhole them into that. Like, I'll take a good band, for example, like Soundgarden. You could listen to Soundgarden now and say, like, wow, had they been released in the 2000s or 2010s or even now, they would still be a good band. I don't think you could pigeonhole a band to like Soundgarden to just a 90s band. Same with some of these other bands. But the bands I think we're talking about specifically, they felt very 90s. I mean, I don't know if you guys agree with that.
Very much so.
Yeah, I agree. I think the term great gets thrown around a lot, and they go, oh, this is a great 90s band, and they were great. There's bad bands, and there's good bands, and there's great bands. I think too many people have to use the word great when describing just a pretty good band in the 90s. You know what I mean?
Great points, guys. So when you listed your selections and honorable mentions, did you all know right away at the time that these acts were overrated, or did it take time and retrospect to form this stance?
I knew right away. Going through the albums, the catalog of the songs for my artists. I mean, I read up on the accolades and whatnot, but for me, I focused on the music, and that's I just like, yeah, that's how I looked at this question right away. I went with the music.
I half agree and half disagree. Like, there's a couple of bands I knew right away. Oh fuck, these are the guys. Or these are the bands. And then there were some, like, going back and listening to a few that I thought were great, And having listened to them or seeing all their albums or all their music that they put out in the 90s, you kind of see that, they kind of hit on one album and then they kind of faded after that, or their songs weren't as popular. They weren't as great, again, using that word again. So it's a little bit of both, man. But yeah, I knew my best. As soon as we came up with the topic, I knew my pick. I think a lot of people know my pick.
I needed to let it cook a little bit. To me, it's like rating a president. It takes time to grade. And I think we were so caught up in like the superfluous grandeur of this decade. We needed time to pass and time to take a step back and say there was really some things that did not age like fine wine. I think some of these bands are like just uniquely like, okay, they're 90s specific. And I like music, and I think I could speak for the crowd here, that transcends time. Like a great band, a Pink Floyd, a Led Zeppelin, or what have you, they transcend time. You could play them anytime. You're not going to be jamming out to, I don't know, Do Me by Belle Biv DeVoe.
Why not?
So I mean, that's just. I mean,
Do Me and I'm on. That's a cruise to work to, baby.
So last question, guys. Is 90s music as a whole the most overrated music decade? Did we let too many musical acts through the pipeline, or should we have been more selective as an era?
When we did our pregame before this, we're going to focus on the rock bands, because I believe that's, what we,
where it's at,
what we all thought about. Yeah. Where it's at, what we all thought about when this topic was suggested. But I mean, as we know, and as the listeners of our show know, after, the 90s focused episodes that we've done, 90s music was great, at least to us. I mean, I know that sounds biased, but because we're kids of the 90s, but the dance music, the rock, the hip hop, the R&B, the rap, did I say rap already? I'm not sure. The metal, it was all good. And I know, so no, I mean, I don't think the 90s music was overrated. I think we've talked about this before. I think it's a decade of one-hit wonders, many of them, but I don't think we're overrated.
I agree.
Not like now's genre.
Yeah, I think 2000. I mean, I think the 80s decade of music is the most overrated. Even though I absolutely love 80s music, but I think it's like people get that nostalgia factor when it comes to the 80s. The worst decade, of course, is this new decade of music. So, 2010 to 2020, I think the music kind of went to shit. Although Mariah Carey's still singing, so what does that say about the music industry right now? But yeah, I don't think the 90s were the most overrated decade of music.
I think there was so many things that were just, it was such a monoculture, as I mentioned earlier. So everything was circulated through magazines. It was the impetus of the internet. So many new genres were emerging. Streaming, pirating was happening. MTV was still playing music. Movie segments were becoming music videos on the big screen. So I think the 90s was like this, like huge, like cosmic boom of like music has to be everywhere and it has to be everything. It's on your radio, it's on your computer, it's on your movie screen. And it was so much and it was so immense. That's why I think we saw so many bands come and go and so many artists, just emerge from this era. So let's go on with our honorable mentions. Bob, who did you have for your honorable mentions?
All right. It's time to piss some people off, because you know that we're going to piss somebody off with either honorable mention or a pick. So I'm going to start off strong. Joseph, sorry, bro. 9 Inch Nails is one of my first honorable mentions as most overrated bands of the 90s. I'm just not into techno metal. It's just not my thing. I only say that to piss Joseph off. He's already shaking his head. He looks like he's going to punch me. Bush, 16 Stone was a great album. Everything Zen, Glycerin, Machine Head, Come Down. But after that, they really didn't do anything for the music scene. I don't think... Mal, they did the song Mal for American Werewolf in Paris, and it just really, I don't know, they just didn't really have it. He got famous because he married Gwen Stefani. I think that's what happened with Gavin Ross, although he's a great actor now. Green Day. Yes, Green Day. Man. After the Dookie album, I think they took a huge nosedive, man, and everybody thought that they were they're bringing the punk back, and this grungy style punk, and then they went commercial and fucking selling eyeliner and shit like that. So I think they really lost a lot of luster, and I'm probably gonna get shit on because of that, but I really do think they're one of the most overrated bands of the 90s. Hootie and the Blowfish. Okay, this may not come as a shock to many people, but Hootie and the Blowfish, Let Her Cry, I Only Want to Be With You, Hold My Hand. What a fucking pussy, right? They all the songs kind of sounded the same. their first album, was good, but the second album didn't really do much. Third album, I mean, then Hootie had to go solo. So if y'all haven't seen the Key and Peele Hootie and the Blowfish skit, that's one of the funniest skits they have. Go check it out. We were watching it earlier this week. I mean, one of the best. And last but not least, now this is debatable, and I was on the fence, and Joseph's gonna look at me like I'm fucking crazy, and maybe I am a little bit, but the Smashing Pumpkins. I love the Smashing Pumpkins, man. I love Siamese Dream and Melancholy with Infinite Sadness, but they get a lot of credit for music, and I'm just not a big fan of Billy Corgan's voice, dude. I'm just not. Like, he whispers too much. It's like they squeeze his nuts every time he tries to make that noise, that sound. It just bothers me, dude. And his face and music's great. I love those two albums, and those were two early albums in the 90s. I know I'm gonna get shit on for this, but I think after that, like, this guy was going off a reputation alone, and he kind of has that, like, I'm cooler than everybody. Was even fucking Kurt Cobain's ex-wife or wife at the time too. So like he has this kind of arrogance about him that I just don't like. I just want to punch him in the nose, that type of thing. So Billy Corgan, sorry Billy. Well, not so much Billy. I'm just. I love Smashing Pumpkins' first two albums, but after that, they kind of lost. Ava Adore is okay. I mean, but after that, they kind of lost me. Okay, shit on me for that one, guys.
Oh my god, Joseph, do you want to discuss some of these bands, or do you just want to go on to? Because I am thoroughly. I mean, we came back to this. I mean, if he had chose some of those bands as his actual pick, I think we would have had some arguments, or some. I mean, it's always fun, but some of those bands that you listed
so friendly.
Some of those bands you mentioned.
Joseph was already putting on his eyeliner and ready to take me to Boulevard of Broken Dreams right now.
No, well, here's the thing. We're saying 90s, so I don't want to spend a lot of time. Wow, Bob, because now we can talk about this, and I don't want to take up a lot of time, but
yes.
We gotta talk about Green Day, dude. Green Day. I said this before. Once Green Day went into the 2000s, that's where it changed. 90s Green Day, I'm still totally fine with.
Still good. Yes.
There's no problem for me with 90s.
I think they got too poppy and commercial, man. Right off the bat, dude.
I'd say,
Rod, I hope you have the time of your life. That's not fucking punk. I want to sell a bunch of graduate fucking commercials, man.
That's the last album I give them. After that, Warning in 2000, that's where I see a big change. I think we've even talked about that. Bush, dude.
Razorblade Suitcase.
Razorblade Suitcase was a great album. Greedy Fly, Swallowed, Cold Contagious, Mouth, like you mentioned, Straight No Chaser. I mean, these are fucking great songs. I know they kind of changed up their sound after that. So
would you say that they're one of the greatest 90s rock bands?
I'm not saying they're not the greatest.
I would say.
I'm just saying that I'm not saying they're overrated.
Yeah, but you also like Arcade Fire.
Who the fuck's Arcade Fire?
I'm talking to Randy. Now he's even more. He's not insulted by my comment. He's insulted by yours. Who the fuck is Arcade Fire?
And Smashing Pumpkins. I'll just say, like, I like it too. I didn't
want to say Smashing Pumpkins. I love Tonight. Tonight's one of my favorite songs of all time.
I think Billy Corgan is a douchebag, but overrated.
Okay, I think they're a little overrated, dude.
But that was a lot.
Again, I want to preface this before I get a lot of shit. Before I get shit on, I don't think that these are bad bands. I love.
No, we don't.
I love Bush. I was waiting for somebody to say I love Bush, but nobody actually. These are bands I really do enjoy, except for Nine Inch Nails. I'm just not a fan. Sorry, Joe. But I think you kind of got to go on a limb and be like, so too many people praise these bands out to be like something greater than they actually not. So. I didn't want to go with like something stupid like, Toad and the Wet Sprocket, which they had one fucking song, so you can't really call them overrated, right? So I want to hear let's hear what do you have, Joseph?
Well, what the fuck did Hootie and the Blowfish do to you? Joseph, go ahead.
He changed his whole sound and sang "Rock Me Mama." That's after that. I fucking hate it.
That's what they did to me. That's what Hootie did. Way to go, Hootie.
No.
The name is not Hootie.
What's crazy is actually like my list, like my honorable mentions. Some of them I just don't fucking like. So anyway, okay. I only have a few. I have Creed, which I thought Bob would have mentioned.
No, that's an easy target.
Yeah.
I know it's an easy target, but you gotta admit that they are overrated. I think we can all agree on that at least.
I agree. So they believed in God, sir. They sang about God. How dare you?
I'm not faulting anybody for that. Although I will say this, that when I was younger, I didn't recognize the overtly Christian tone in all their music. But anyway, I had Creed.
Didn't help.
I had Candlebox.
Oh man, go ahead, go.
Only you ever see Randy fist pumps? He's already done like 4 fist pumps, getting out of his chair, throwing kicks and shit in the air.
Why did we start off with this topic? Anyway, go, Joseph.
I got Candlebox.
It's the best topic. I hope the audience is doing the same thing.
I do want to say, but because this topic was kind of hard. It was no. It was kind of hard to actually think of these bands because I don't think that a lot of them are overrated. I just, some basically, yes, we do. And the one that I picked, anyway, I got Spin Doctors. I think they're just maybe just that one hit wonder, but I think they got 2.
I think they had 3.
They get too much airplay to this day, and I'm like, just shut the fuck up. I got Blind Melon, of course. I just, you know what, that song just.
I'll give you that. Yeah,
I can't deal with.
Although
Galaxy,
easy band.
Galaxy's a great Blind Melon song.
Now here's the one that might I think you all agree with, but people
finally, come on, Joseph.
I think Hole I think Hole was completely overrated.
Oh no, Hole's good.
No, that's just stuff written by Kurt that Courtney stole, bro. That's all it is.
And Billy Corgan. She didn't really get good until she went commercial. She didn't really. And Billy Corgan, yeah, he looks like a. God, I fucking hate. Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
All right. We're just stepping on each other.
Sit down, Billy. You're gonna get hurt.
All right. I know. So let me get the shitty trilogy out of the way. Nickelback, of course. Easy targets. That's why we didn't choose them. Creed is another one. Easy target. Limp Bizkit, I think, is another easy target. A terrible 90s, early 2000s band.
No softies.
Smash Mouth is another band I thought got way too much credit.
Softie.
They made a lot of smart business moves. They hitched their wagon to Shrek and to what's that Jennifer Love Hewitt movie? When they're back in high school. Can't Hardly Wait.
They did
some great soundtrack decisions. The Wallflowers. I thought that Nepo Baby Jacob Dylan, he was okay. I mean, I don't think they were all as great as we thought they were. I know Bruce Springsteen once covered One Headlight. He sang it way better than the Wallflowers did. Sugar Ray was another band. I know they had about 5 or 6 hits. Didn't think they were that good. Sugar Ray, what were you gonna say?
No, I would say yes. God damn it. Sugar Ray, the wife, Creative Little Pill, that's her pick. Sugar Ray, she hates that band. I'll sing it or put it on just to annoy the shit out of her.
Yeah, Sugar Ray. Hey, they were okay. Savage Garden was another one I did not like. Collective Soul. I mean,
how many songs did Savage Garden have?
They had Madly Deeply, and then they had that
the Chick or Cherry, or the Chick Cherry Cola band?
Yeah. They probably had about 2 hits, but I mean, still overrated.
I've never heard anybody tell me or say in passing, you know who was a great band of the 90s? Savage Garden. God damn, those guys rock. They were the best of the night. I've never had one person overrated. I have no idea where that's. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm just saying y'all are fucking soft. I'm sorry. I had to say that. Okay, go ahead, man.
Collective Soul. I mean, what the fuck was Where the River Flows? What was that about? I mean,
first concert, they were epic.
I've seen them in concert. They're okay. They're a good concert band, but I thought they were extremely overrated. Smash Mouth, I said already. Belle Biv DeVoe, I'll wrap up with that. And I've already mentioned it before. My buddy shouted out. My buddy Alex said Blink 182. He goes, "You got to mention Blink 182." I see him late 90s, early 2000s, kind of teetering that cross of the decade.
I agree with that. 2000. They're more of a 2000. I wouldn't say they're overrated though, but yeah, they're more of a 2000 band. At least in my point of view.
That was our honorable mentions that nobody agreed with anybody.
Let me just say, folks, at least you got to give me some credit for going out on a limb and making these guys fucking Savage Garden and god damn it. And what was it? Not Sublime. What was it? Might as well be Walking on the Sun. You're really going on a limb, guys. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
All right, so we're going to start off with our selection for most overrated band of the 90s. Bob, you're first. Who you got?
Oh, shit. Here we go. See, the thing is, now y'all pissed me off, so I'm going to go at these guys hard now. I went with, and this was an easy pick for me, and, you may agree, may disagree. I don't give a shit. I went with Pearl Jam, the most overrated grunge rock band of the 90s and of all time. People still to this day praise Eddie Vedder as this, like, larger than life rock icon when the motherfucker can't even enunciate his lyrics, man. It fucking mind boggles. It blows my freaking mind. Some of their biggest hits of the 90s are some of the most ridiculous songs. Even Foe, Black, Jeremy. What the fuck is he saying? I don't understand him. Jeremy's definitely, it sounds like a Bruce Springsteen ripoff too, about him bullying some kid and then getting his ass kicked. And that's just in their first album 10. Those big songs. 3 of their biggest hits were him mispronouncing or him, I don't know what the fuck he's doing with his voice, and it doesn't allow the listener to understand what the hell the lyrics are, what the hell he's saying. And still he got praised like he's one of the greatest singers. He's a Chris Cornell, he's a Kurt Cobain. Nowhere near the fact. They put out 5 albums in the 90s, and you wouldn't really know it, because when people think of Pearl Jam, they think of the same 3 songs. They think of Jeremy, they think of Even Flow, they think of Black. But they put out 5 different albums between 93 and 99, which kind of is crazy, because if they're this larger than life band that everybody makes them seem out to be, they would have had a shitload more hits, at least in my opinion. So I think they just given a little too much credit, man. They put out all this music and people are giving them way too much credit. Now I'll give them a little bit of credit here. I'll throw them a bone. Their riffs and musically, their guitar play is really, really good. I really do dig that part of the band. Their song openings are some of the best of the 90s. I really do dig that. But then, my problem's just with Eddie Vedder's vocals. He's just way too hyped up as this great vocalist and leading man of a 90s rock band. And he just doesn't hold a candle to guys like Lane Stanley or Kurt Cobain or Chris Cornell or Scott Weiland. Even fucking Billy Corgan is better than Eddie Vedder, dude. And that's because he whispers a shitload and he sounds like his balls were cut off, right before he hit puberty. So he's been the biggest, I don't know, man. It's the lead singer, dude. And that could be completely honest with that. The lead singer just ruins it for me, Eddie Vedder. There's some songs that he sings in other albums and he actually has a decent voice, but I don't know what the fuck he's trying to do, changing his voice and covering up the lyrics. I laughed so hard this week because there's so many what did he say type of music videos where they put these funny lyrics over the videos of Jeremy, of Black, of Even Flow, and it's fucking hilarious, dude, because it really does sound like he's saying something ridiculous or something stupid. So that's my pick as far as being overrated. This guy he gets a ton of praise. He's on stage with some of the greats, and he's with Bruce Springsteen, and he's on these talk shows, and he talks about grunge music like, oh my God, I lived it, and I'm the living survivor, and I'm still one of the, I don't know, dude. It's wrong with me. I just don't think that they're as special as everybody makes them out to be. What do you think?
Well, you just unleashed the lion. I will tell you that. I will say Eddie Vedder.
I almost said something, but I'll hold
it. Known for his powerful baritone vocals, ranked number 7 of best lead singers of all time per Rolling Stone. But then again, they didn't put Celine Dion on that list, so maybe I shouldn't use that as an argument. Anyway, before Taylor Swift told you that Ticketmaster was evil, Pearl Jam tried to tell you they were evil 30 years ago. Were Eddie Vedder's
But you had to read it in their statement.
Were Eddie Vedder's tortured young artist ploys a bit over the top? Yeah, sure. I mean, sure they were. It was the 90s, though. Everybody was very misanthropic. I mean, if Mr. Feeney understood, so should you, right? Let's take a step back. Mount Rushmore of grunge were, of course, Nirvana, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, and Pearl Jam. That's not a debate. That's just popular, listings right there. And it was cool to hate Pearl Jam because of the more internal angst, while the other bands were loud and nihilistic. I mean, Pearl Jam was almost like your son locking his bedroom door and copying an attitude. It felt very PG-13 versus the other grunge bands who are more dark and ominous. I'll give them that if that's what your tastes are. But guess who sustained throughout the 90s and now? Pearl Jam. This is a band for the working class. They serenade the nosebleed sections at every concert. They sing about social justice. They evolve. They're protective of their fans. And how could you hate them? They never use the same set. Eddie Vedder has some crazy organized catalog of songs. They've played in every city since they started touring. And he makes sure to play different songs to go to every city. So you're getting more bang for your buck. If you've seen Pearl Jam in Chicago 4 times, you've probably heard a different set each time. They speak their mind. Even when they felt MTV was going down the toilet, which it was in the late 90s, they stopped making music videos for years. And they weren't in it for the money. If your argument is that Eddie Vedder mumbles through his lyrics, well, Just like Eddie Vedder's song concert list, I've made a list. Here are some singers who mumble: Kurt Cobain, Bob Dylan, Jim Morrison, Joe Cocker, Ozzy Osbourne, and the list goes on and on. Many of these rock singers do mumble, and mumbling wasn't just exclusive to Eddie Vedder. He just does it faster, right? Eddie's ability to write lyrics around love, heartbreak, and the human condition and the joy of life and to the way he emotes and the way the band emotes, I felt it was always a true gift every time I got to listen to their albums. Get past Even Flow and Yellow Ledbetter and listen to the songs that we all understood. You'll get it, right? They had 2 of the 100 best-selling albums of the 90s. By the way, if you look at that list, Garth Brooks comes out every 5th album. That fucker dominated. Their raw energy, Pearl Jam, and their love for the fans, the craft, they were never in it for the aesthetics or for the persona or for the zeitgeist or for the grunge. They were just churning out meaningful music, and the facade were those heavy riffs and solos. Mike McCready, and you mentioned this, Bob, and I'm glad you did. He's an incredible guitarist. I mean, Yellow Ledbetter sounds a lot like Little Wing from Jimi Hendrix. I mean, just an incredible, he kind of lifted it from there. They evolved and grew up and away from the 90s grunge band, sort of persona. And if they're so overrated, why are so many bands in the 90s stuck in this genre quicksand pit where they're always playing the same music? To me, Pearl Jam's best song is Sirens. It wasn't a song that came out in the 90s. It came out much after, I think 2010 or 11 or something. I love that song. The 90s were only the beginning of their book. Pearl Jam is going to be around for a long time. I know that we're only rating their 90s catalog, but even then, they catapulted into fame. They took a bit of a different route, and I think they were collectively stuck into that grunge label because of the way they looked, not really the way they sounded, because they had a sound of their own. I love them. Joseph, what do you think?
Bob, I thought you were
you know, Ozzy Osbourne does mumble when he speaks. He fucking sings crystal clear. Let's just get that out there. And yeah, they had this big research. They did have a resurgence in 2003, but Yellow Ledbetter, he fucking mumbles just like he does in Black. He sounds just as terrible and incoherent in Black as in Yellow Ledbetter as he did in Black and all those. You may think, yeah, he wasn't grunge. He had an entirely different sound of his own. Yeah, he's a fucking mumbler. He fucking just terrible. For anybody to say, for the Rolling Stones to say he's in the top 7 lead singers of all time, somebody must have fucking got a payback or something under the table, handy or something. Joseph, go ahead.
My opinion of this selection is gonna, I guess, I don't know, it might make both of you feel, I don't know,
better about yourselves, yeah, or you might agree, or I don't have the issues that Bob has with Pearl Jam as far as like the vocals, or maybe he did say the music is good, right? You did say at least the music is good, Bob. The guitars, the drums and whatnot. You agreed with that?
Yep.
Okay, so just mainly just an Eddie Vedder type situation for you.
Oh, most definitely.
I don't have an issue with Vedder's vocals. I think obviously 10, their 1991 release early in the 90s, that I believe is a great album. There's plenty of songs on that album that I love, that I listen to this day. The obvious being, Even Flow, Alive, Black, Jeremy, personal favorite of mine, The Deep Cut Garden. I think that's a great fucking song. After that though, Daughter off of their next album, Versus, I don't have an issue with the music, and I like Vedder, but I do believe they are overrated in the fact that I don't think Versus has that many great songs. I don't think Vitology has that many great songs. Pretty much all the way up until Lightning Bolt, which I can agree with you, Randy, that an older, aware of his immortality,
his mumbling,
songwriting, Vedder. That's a pretty good album there with Getaway, but it's an older album. Excuse me, it's a newer album. It's old, but it's newer. It's not the 90s. And yes, you mentioned Sirens. That's a great fucking song. That is a great song. It really is. Future Days off of that album is another good song. Yes, it is. So but what I'm trying to say is 90s, Pearl Jam doesn't do it for me as far as the 90s. Like I said, I didn't really like anything off of Versus. I don't really care for Vitology, No Code. No, and Yield. These don't really scream to me anything. But I don't hate his voice. I don't hate their music, and I can listen to them without issues. I just don't find much that I want to listen to from them. And that's why I can agree in the fact that they're overrated. I don't think they're a shitty band. I don't think Bob thinks they're a shitty band. I think it's just it's like how Bob feels about Vedder is how I feel about Axl Rose, I guess.
Yeah, we can agree with that.
So I do think they're a little bit overrated in the fact, I can agree with that they're a little overrated in the fact that I don't believe they have as many, to me, memorable albums of the 90s. Aside from that, what I believe is a killer fucking album right off the bat in the 90s, 10.
But I will say that their third album, Vitology, is a better album than their second album. I know they have Last Kiss, but yeah. Well, to me, Corduroy off Vitology is, to me, that's their second best song. The first album is great. I mean, no skips on that one. Versus, I know they got some criticism. There's some good cuts on there. I think Vitology is good. I think the body of work in the 90s was tremendous. I think they sustained and they outlasted that grunge label. And I think that's why it's so important. I don't know if you could underrate a band.
Because they're the only ones that survived. I think that if you're just looking at the 90s, they hit big with their first album and they kind of had duds the next 4 albums, man. It wasn't that great. You had they had deep cuts. They weren't super big hits. They didn't have any great songs to be labeled a great band of the 90s. I think you had to have multiple albums. You were just hitting on these great, amazing songs, and I don't think they had that, man. I really don't. I think 10, everybody got so excited with 10 that anything they did after that, they kind of went with the flow, even flow. But I just don't. I don't see it. I just don't see it, man. I just don't see it. And like going back to this debate, and I'll ask you all, and this will be the end of it. Lane Staley, Kurt Cobain, Chris Cornell, Billy Corgan, Scott Weiland. You only think Eddie Vedder sings better than all these guys?
I think he sings better than some of those guys.
Like who? Billy Corgan, I'll give you. Chris Cornell, no fucking way. Kurt Cobain, no fucking way. Lane Staley, no fucking way.
I think
Scott Weiland, no fucking.
I think Chris Cornell wins that contest hands down. I think he's a better singer.
Easily. But I don't think that you can compare this guy like, he's one of the top 7 singers of all time. Even in the fucking 90s, he wasn't even top 6, top 7. And you want to say of all time? Not even mentioning Robert Plant and some of the other amazing singers of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So yeah, I'll say Rolling Stones are a little bit full of shit on that one.
I think you both got great arguments for your pick, and I'm in the middle. I do. I'll say that I know we're focusing on the 90s, and I said what I said about the 90s, but I do think it's cool that at least they didn't stay stuck doing one thing. I guess as they got older, they stopped trying to be. I believe, at least when I heard that Lightning Bolt album, I was like, this is nothing of what the Pro Jam that we knew, or the Pro Jam that made them famous is. I don't really hear that. And I'm not hating it. I'm not against it. We all get older, you can't keep screaming the same fucking songs all the time.
I will say this, and I mean, I know when we think of Eddie Vedder, the imitations, the way he enunciates words, everybody goes to Yellow Ledbetter and Alive and Even Flow, even Opera Man. I mean, we had one of our favorite skits, Opera Man, where he, I hope he doesn't have a girlfriend. Oh, yeah, But if I had to pick one song that best defines Eddie Vedder's vocals, and it is a 90s song, it's off a 90s album, Off He Goes is probably the best vocal song that Eddie Vedder sings. And I would say if you want to listen to a great Eddie Vedder vocal, listen to Off He Goes. Just a tremendous song. Up next with my pick, I chose Dave Matthews Band. I have so much to say. Okay. I didn't pick them because their tour bus dumped an estimated 800 pounds of human waste onto the passenger sightseeing boat in the Chicago River in 2004. So I'm not going to shit on them the way they shit on those poor boat passengers. Their rise, Dave Matthews Band, in popularity in the mid-90s coincided with these sort of trendy college bar jam bands. These normal-looking guys who were playing happy rock in the midst of the slacker, misanthropic 90s. Bands like, if I had to do my Mount Rushmore, I'd say Hootie and the Blowfish, Counting Crows, Blues Traveler, and Dave Matthews. They were this Mount Rushmore of bands of guys that were doing Pete Davidson shit with incredible looking women before Pete Davidson, right? And bands tried this formula. Bands tried this formula afterwards, like Sister Hazel, Fight for Fighting, but it was just that quick window in the mid-90s that nobody else hit the success that those bands did in terms of what they did and what they represented to the zeitgeist and popularity. They were like your buddies jamming out. You know, I get the aesthetic appeal, but are we sure Dave Matthews Band was a great band? I mean, good band, yes. Jam band, of course. But I feel they were far too revered, and it all has to do with Dave Matthews. I mean, this is his band. It's not the Dave Matthews Band. It's Dave Matthews Band. I mean, sounds possessive, right? And he isn't exactly a great singer. People have described his singing style as kind of like hee-hawing. It kind of sounds like a talented donkey, right? Like that donkey that kicks field goals in that 70s Disney movie, Gus, I think it was called. And Cowboys could use him. Anyway, it reminds me of something I read about Van Halen. David Lee Roth came from a well-to-do family, so he was able to purchase all the amps and equipment. So in exchange, they allowed him to be the lead singer of the band. That's how I kind of feel about Dave Matthews. He's a very non-threatening guy in a very non-threatening band. I get like Fish, their concerts are event, just like the Grateful did. It's trendy to say that you put on your flip-flops, you put on your backwards cap, and you went to a Dave Matthews Band, but people go to drink, to smoke, and to fuck around more so than to listen to the band. They are the background music for frat bro shoving matches at the porta potties, is what I'm saying. But the banality and the humdrum safe style of their music, they've been sort of tethered to the same sort of settling sound. I like their music. I do. I think it's okay. The Space Between is my favorite Dave Matthews song. People use that for many romantic occasions. And although Dave is, again, hee-hawing his way through the entirety of those motherfucking songs, they do have some great orchestra, or I should say they do have some great jam music. My issue is we have been giving them way too much credit because A, they look mild-mannered, and B, Dave Matthews, he's a truly likable guy. I know he's had tragedies in his life. He's a very sympathetic character, and Under the Table and Dreaming and Crash they're good albums. Those were like the Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore movies for Adam Sandler. But when I think of the 90s, I don't think of Dave Matthews as a go-to playlist option. To me, they're look, I've stumbled on them on Sirius XM. I'll let this song play, hoping it prolongs the dreadful drive to work or whatever. But hey, if you're a middle school age teacher, maybe a mother of four, a lawyer, or you want to get down and wild, this is the band for you. Don't listen to me. But what do you say, fellas? Or I should say, what would you say? What do you guys think?
Pun City tonight.
Too many dad jokes. This is too many dad jokes.
I was there when the hair and the puppy hair go.
What the fuck was that? Randy?
That was like Eddie Vedder trying to do Dave Matthews.
Ran like that bus, sir, you are full of shit.
That's good. That was good.
Look, okay. I agree with some of your points, the things that you said, but how do I say this? What you're saying is what I agree that makes them not very rated at all. I don't see the argument that they're overrated. I've never seen them as being so highly rated that do I like the music? Sure, I love the music. Love listening to some Dave Matthews Band. If I had a chance to see Dave Matthews Band live, I'd go do it. If I had a chance to see Dave Matthews solo show, I'd do that. If I had a chance to go see fucking Dave and Tim, I'd go see that. I just think that, yes, they're a jam band, but I've never... And I think they make good music. I think we all know that aside from that bus incident, they are genuinely all good dudes. They do some great philanthropic things. I don't see them as them. I've never seen them or him. I know that it's called Dave Matthews Band, but we really have to look at it as just Dave Matthews himself. I've never known him to be, or seen him on TV as having a large ego or anything like that. I think that's what maybe you're mixing that with why people love them, because you see it as him being overrated. I just think that he's a good dude. He's a funny dude. I think he can act. I think he's got some talent in the acting chops. You see him in a lot of Adam Sandler stuff. I just think that because of the person that he is, he's very likable, and that in turn makes the band very likable. I think, and like I mentioned, I do think the music is good. I've never seen them. I think they have one Grammy in their entire career. I know they were in the 90s. Their albums, were a little better or more recognized, and with Under the Table and Dreaming, Crash, and Before These Crowded Streets. The newer stuff isn't so recognized, but it's still it's still some good sounding music. I disagree with how high you're ranking them. We both like the music. We all think the music's pretty good.
I don't like clarinets in my rock and roll. But
so basically, Joseph, what you're saying that they were a very good '90s band, but they weren't a great band. Is that what you're trying to say? They're a very good band, but not a great band, so they can't be overrated because they're just a good band. They were a good band. They weren't a great band, so they can't be overrated. Is that what you're?
They had a moment.
You can be a great band and be considered.
No, I'm just trying to get your perspective on it.
Yeah, I don't see that. I see them as a great band. I just don't think they're as the way Randy describes them. He describes them as if we're talking, as if we're talking about like Nirvana or some shit, and I don't think they were ever that.
I don't think they were that, but they did have a moment. There was a time in the mid '90s where they owned, especially after the grunge era ended.
I think, I agree with you. I mean, I think they had a lot of moments, and they could have been a great band. I mean, they had Crash Into Me. What would you say? Seek Up, Where Are You Going? Satellite, Too Much, Don't Drink the Water, Crush. That's like 3 more hits than fucking Pearl Jam.
No.
And the thing that bothered me a lot, I mean, Randy brought up about Dave Matthews' vocals. Hee-haw. Are you seriously complaining about Dave Matthews' vocals? And then you're saying, but
I think he's got a beautiful voice.
Like an angel. But Dave Matthews has a great voice. He hits some beautiful notes. He's got a great thing going, man. As the decade rolled on, I think that his music has evolved. I think it's gotten better. I mean, his live at the Red Rocks with album in 1997 was like one of the best albums of the 90s, dude. Live albums of the 90s, excuse me. I mean, amazing shit. And yeah, people went there to smoke. If you want to smoke and relax and listen to some of the greatest fucking music that's going on in the 90s, that concert was amazing, dude. And anybody who hasn't heard live at the Red Rocks in 1997 of Dave Matthews, man, was it Tim Reynolds as well with him, Joseph? Are you muted?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, sorry.
Tell me yes or no.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing shit. And not to mention, and I just want to throw this out there. I mean, the vocals weren't bad. But not to mention this, just throwing it out there, that he's a phenomenal guitar player. I mean, him and Jerry Cantrell are by far the best acoustic guitar players of the 90s. I don't think you could tell me anybody else, maybe fucking Jewel. I think Randy wants to throw that out there to be progressive, but no, I think those two guys, Randy was like, yeah, oh, fuck, I can't say it now. No, I think Jerry Cantrell, if you've ever heard Dave Matthews play a solo on his acoustic guitar, it's like he's got 12 fingers, like Dusty Lee. He's just an amazing guitar player, man. I think this band is, I think you have to be in a certain mood to listen to this band. You know what I mean? You want to be a little buzzed. You want to be a little high. You want to relax. You want to cruise. You want to be on a beach. You want to just chill the fuck out, man. But I don't feel like they're overrated because I don't see anybody. I've never felt like Dave Matthews ever needed to be on a pedestal or anybody ever put Dave Matthews on a pedestal. Their band, and I think that they're a really great band, dude. And I really do enjoy their music and like their music, and his solo shit, fucking amazing. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, we all like the music. We all like his music. Randy just.
I like his music. Yes.
I know. Randy, you just believe that he's.
We gave
they
him
were
too
a little
much
bit more. They gave him a little too much credit back in the days, which I didn't agree with that. I think you're giving him too much credit right now. By saying that he got too much credit, but does that make sense? Is it weird though that like
what's that? What you said?
Am I the only one that thinks that like we like the live albums more than we like the actual studio albums? His live performance albums, because there's a bunch. He's got a lot of live in Central Park, live in Chicago, live in Red Rocks, like Bob said.
Can I just say that Some Devil was a fucking amazing album. I know it came out in like 2003, but that album was fucking amazing.
Yeah, I think they're a band that has better live albums
because I think it's because it goes to the fact if you read on them and they always do different renditions of their songs live. And they do different renditions of those renditions, I guess. You know what I mean? Like it's weird. It's you can read up on it. The way that they play the music live. Party. And it all sounds good. But I don't know, man. I think you're giving them more credit for having more credit than they actually had, if that makes sense.
I will say this. I wasn't going to say Jewel. I was going to say Liz Phair. Okay, just to make sure. All right. So anyway, let's go on.
I got a fast car.
Let's go on with Joseph's pick. Who do you got for us, Joseph?
All right, my pick is Radiohead. I know Randy's pissed off.
How dare you?
You creep. Okay,
really? Bob too? Wow, fuck. The somewhat famous, depending on how you look at it, rock band from England. Formed in 1985. Okay, so they got 3 albums.
You're so dark. I thought you would like this dark music.
I'll get it.
Let him get it out. Go, Joe.
3 albums. They got 3 albums released in the 90s. Okay, Pablo Honey, February of 1993. The Bends, March of 1995, and OK Computer in May 1997. Okay, I know this. So these guys got three albums in the span of 4 years in the 90s. Is that a good thing? Maybe. For them, it was, I guess, because it kept their names, fresh in the minds of the music business and in their fans. Now, to be fair, do they have songs that I think are good? Yes, of course, I do. Paranoid Android, Karma Police. Karma Police is listenable. High and Dry, I think is a great song. Yes. Fake Plastic Trees. I do see, and this goes back to our picks. Like, we all agree that these bands that we're picking have good songs. I think that these 3 albums... I think that these 3 albums, the 90s albums, they're just 3 albums that have 1 to 2 to maybe 3 good songs in each of them for the most part. They all kind of sound the same. Is that enough to anoint them one of the greatest rock bands of all time? I'm trying to remember whether or not Randy had them on his top 10. I couldn't remember that.
They were close. I think they were in.
Maybe had them to 15, right?
They were. So, I love them. Yeah, they're great.
I love them.
They were on the watch. They were on the watch.
They were on the Watch Mojo ones. But I think Randy had them at least in the 15.
Yeah, they were like number 9. They were number 10.
Is that enough to say? That 5 of their albums deserve to be included in Rolling Stone's 500 greatest albums of all time? Absolutely not, sir. We all know that Rolling Stone's credibility is shaky at best when it comes to putting lists together of this nature. And if you don't believe me, look no further than what you mentioned earlier, their most recent debacle, the 200 greatest singers of all time list. Bunch of crap. Radiohead, to me, again, we're talking the 90s Radiohead. My argument on this topic is geared towards their 90s era music. So don't hold their whole catalog against me. They're like Pearl Jam. They have a long career of music. But anyway, they didn't sound like they were doing much different than, from what Oasis was doing, who coincidentally had 3 albums released around the same time of each Radiohead album. Real weird. I'm not saying that Oasis deserves so much more fucking recognition than Radiohead either. I think they sound better. Most definitely. Radiohead, I think, was for a more particular listener. And did they have that audience? Sure, of course. There's always an audience for a particular type of music. There's always going to be somebody that wants to hear that style. I just look at them as very, one-dimensional. That's one-dimensional, Randy, not One Direction. We're not going to talk about Harry Styles, all right? Get that out of your head, bro.
You didn't see his eyebrows when he started up, sat up in his chair?
Huh? One Direction? Finish your goddamn thoughts.
I'm sure that people are going to say, well, you were probably going to say, what about the record sales? What about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction? And to that, I say, sure, go for it. A lot of terrible musicians have made millions of dollars off of, some form of music, and some of them are in the Hall of Fame themselves. Does it mean that they're anything special? No, not at all. And to say Radiohead advanced the sound of alternative rock, which I saw somebody said that. I think it might have been Rolling Stone or something. I think they got a few good songs. I do. I don't completely hate their music, except for Creep. I fucking hate that song.
Oh my God.
But to it, it's so fucking dull and boring and whiny. You want to talk about whiny music? Creep, I'm a loser. Shut the fuck up. Anyway, to say that they advanced that sound, I think that's a stretch for me.
Some emo dude somewhere's got
some really angry people out there.
Have you said that, Joseph?
Anyway, that's my pick.
All right. Joseph is like, I like a lot of fake plastic things, but trees aren't one of them. Anyway, so obviously you've never had a lot of
money for those.
You've never had your heart broken in the 90s, or else you'd love Radiohead. Your vision is distorted like I can't believe, because Radiohead is tremendous. I'm not going to make a joke about Tom York's eyes, okay? Anyway, look, individually, there's nothing special.
No, you're going to make a sex joke.
Look, I mean, this band is so mesmerizing. They layer so many things brilliantly. Just listen to the guitar on Airbag, one of my favorite Radiohead songs. I love Creep, I love all those other songs, but some of their deep cuts are very artistic and sort of, I guess you could say, far too advanced for radio. So you really have to buy their CDs, or you would have to have bought their CDs in the 90s to really understand this band. Look, individually, there's nothing special about the band members, or should I say so fucking special or whatever. Okay. But they are like the they are like the 2000. They're like the 2004 Detroit Pistons who beat the star-studded Lakers in the finals that year. The combination of pure sonic joy these band members bring forth is so remarkable and different. And that's what I love, is that they brought a style nobody else was doing in the 90s. Nobody else sounded like Radiohead. You could say whatever band, nobody touched the way they sounded. They are the best band to both fall asleep listening to and waking up listening to. I will say that. Listen, they're very smart. They are a very smart, forward-thinking band. I get how that sort of the pretension can be a lot to try and take on, but they really do a great job of breaking down emotions and harnessing experiences. Their sound not only evolved throughout the 90s, it evolved nearly every song on every album. I think they're underrated, and criminally so. They are not a concept album band and like, oh, this is our rock phase or this is our funk phase. They just have a knack of gathering these wide array of instruments and just meticulously style every bit of sound. When I think of Radiohead, I think of this tremendous accessibility that puts a definition behind some emotions I personally have gone through. So they're personal for me. There are many bands who make us think, but wow, this band is so vulnerable. They're so introspective. I love them because even though a lot of music gets me away from my problems, Radiohead makes me feel more introspective about them. They are mellow rock, but they just escaped that sort of Coldplay, Kings of Leon category of trying to turn sappy mush into something out of a rom-com scene. Although they did play Fake Plastic Trees and Something Borrowed, and Jennifer Goodwin was crying in the rain. It was beautiful. Anyway, they are just edgy enough to avoid the stigma of turning rock into a homecoming dance song, is what I'm trying to say, or prom song. Plus, they were the first major band to break away from their label and sell music online. Trailblazers. You know, they could have been a labeled band. They could have been like The Cure. They could have been like U2. I love these bands, but sometimes they can be gimmicky. But Radiohead is just who they are. Nothing more, nothing less. Pablo Honey, the band's OK Computer, fantastic 90s albums. So how dare you, Karma Police, arrest this man? Bob, what do you think?
Nothing but a melancholy Coldplay, as I mentioned in the previous episode.
Melancholy Coldplay, baby. That sounds like the name of the best band ever. Radiohead's mood music, man. And I can agree. I agree with Rand in that respect, in that like perspective on them. Their mood music, they're not gimmicky. They're not flashy, they're nothing like over the top or crazy, or they're just Radiohead, and that's what I really dig about them. And we talked about those three albums in Pablo Honey. They had Creep, the Bends. They had High and Dry. I fucking love that song. Fake Plastic Trees, Street Spirit, and OK Computer. They had Paranoid Android, my favorite Radiohead song of all time. Karma Police, No Surprises, Exit Music's got this cool mood music. I mean, if you've ever taken a Xanax ever before in your life, you probably like Radiohead, and I think that's the kind of music you're going for. Like Randy says, you fall asleep to them after popping for melatonin. You know what I mean? It's kind of got that feel to it. It's kind of got that mood to it. I don't think that they're the greatest rock band of the 90s or of all time. I don't think they should be on anybody's fucking list. Are they good? They're very good. Are they great? I don't think so. Are they overrated? They can't be, because in my personal opinion, they're a very good band, but they're not a great band. They're not on Nirvana's level or Soundgarden's level or on that fucking level of 90s supremacy in rock bands. I don't feel that they're even in that conversation, but they're a great band, and they are what they're meant to be. This was emo music before emo music, with all the fucking eyeliner and flashy and bullshit, and come look at me and dress like me and all that bullshit. They're Tom York and all them. They are who they are. They dress how they dress. They sing how they sing. They play music how they want to fucking play music. How they want to sound in the world is depressing as fuck as it may be with a lot of their music. But I think that they're a band that plays a certain tone, a certain mood, you know what I mean? And I think that they stuck to that, and they stick to that, and a lot of their albums reflect that music. So I don't see them as overrated, because I don't see them as this great, big, huge band like Nirvana is. in the 90s. I just see them as a really good band that in the 90s and in the early 2000s that put out good music. And, Randy disagrees with me big time on that. He may, and that's cool because, Randy, he's had a lot of heartbreak and he's had a lot of crazy things go on in his life. So he's probably cried himself to sleep after Melatonin listening to this shit. But I think they're a very good band. It's a band that I really enjoy. I love Creep. I love Common Police. Paranoid Android, again. Paranoid Android's one of my favorite songs. Fake Plastic Trees is really weird, and High and Dry is fucking awesome. So it's a really great band. If somebody were to say bad things about them, which I don't think Joseph is, it's not his cup of tea, which is fine. Because certain bands just don't fit certain personalities. So
I think they're just giving far too much credit. I think they're giving far too much credit for what other bands were already doing, or bands that were probably doing something similar. I think it's Tom York. I think Tom York is given far too much credit. Maybe not the band, but it's Tom York because he's kind of like that weird asshole out there. He's like Liam Gallagher of Oasis, your favorite dude. And I didn't say, and
he's fucking English.
I like for it to be.
We just lost a lot of viewers.
I did say they have some good songs. I particularly just can't fucking stand Creep. I hate that song. And I guess to someone like Randy, for me to say that, because Randy's a big fan, me to say I hate that fucking song, but then say I like Paranoid Android, I like Karma Police, I like High and Dry and Fake Plastic Trees, and I even gave I didn't want to list up too many songs, but what was that one that you said it earlier about end of the
in the end credits, the love that you make is equal to the love that you take.
But
was that true?
I think. Yeah. And I'm not I'm not trying to compare them to the heavy hitters of the 90s. It's a different sound. It most definitely is. They weren't grunge. I just don't think to say that they advanced the sound of alternative rock. I don't see that. I don't see that at all. They were maybe a deep, like I say, they're a very much more depressing Coldplay. It's just. I don't know.
Pablo Honey has a lot of songs.
I just want to say this,
and I say early Coldplay, not like more 2000s Coldplay.
Yellow's a shit. But by the way,
I'm not saying Yellow's
because you better not fall asleep early because I know your brother. Your brother has a Creep tattoo on his arm with the lyrics. He's going to show up to your house and he's going to punch you right in the fucking stomach as soon as you close your eyes.
Fuck, I didn't know that.
Yes, he does. I'm a creep. I'm a weirdo. He has that tattooed on his arm. Now he's coming for you. He's going to be standing outside your window while it's raining and he's staring through the blinds like in the movies.
Do you guys remember that Beavis and Butthead episode when they were watching Creep, and then when he's like, oh, this song sucks, but then when they start rocking out, they start getting into it.
I think I remember that. That happened a few times.
That's how I feel. That rocking part, Joseph, you gotta like it. As somebody who likes rock and roll, when Creep starts rocking the distorted guitar, that's a great song.
You want to talk about somebody hee-hawing their way through a song? It's that song in particular.
that song. Uncalled for, sir. Hee-haw. That was uncalled for.
Radiohead refused to play Creep for a long time, and fans were booing the shit out of them because that was their signature song. They finally brought it back to the rotation. So I think. They probably don't want to be known by Creep because I think they have cuts that meant deeper meaning to them, but Creep is their flagship song. And I think it's a good one. I'll never get tired of that song. Guys, last thoughts on overrated 90s bands. What have we learned today?
Can I mention a band? Can I mention a band real quick? This was not brought up in honorable mentions, but
go ahead.
Well, I did bring them up slightly. Beck. Do you think Beck's overrated? An overrated 90s band?
No, I don't think Beck's overrated.
The Devil's Haircut, you were dancing to that shit at the mall.
Loser, I love it all, yeah.
All right, cool, man.
New Pollutions, I love New Pollution.
I like Loser.
Devil's Haircut's good with me.
Yeah, they're kind of. They fucking won a Grammy Award over like Beyonce, and I know that Kanye West. I know that's a name we never really bring up on the show, but he lost his complete shit because Beck won over Beyonce, and he was doing cartwheels and throwing shit and ripping shit up on stage. But
I remember.
I think Beck's pretty cool, man. He may be a little overrated, but I think he's kind of flown under the radar. He's put out some good shit.
I love Beck. I think Beck's always kind of been under the radar, but I think he still puts out good music. You listen to Alt Nation.
Really?
Beck will have a cut like every few months. He's still doing it, man. He's still making good music. What about you, Joseph? Any last thoughts?
So go ahead, Joseph.
No, go ahead, Bob. Oh, he's drinking his whiskey now.
Brought to you by Sagamore Spirit Rye.
90s alternative bands, 90s overrated bands. I think that this is a whole, we just focused on the rock. I think that, I don't know. Is it easy? Would it be just as easy for you for the R&B, the pop, or anything like that?
Belle Biv DeVoe.
Okay, you already got that. It's okay. We were to do that.
I've been waiting to talk about 90s hip hop and rap.
And we will do
that sometime soon. Yeah,
got some stuff.
I'm dying to talk about that.
I think it's like I talked about earlier. It's just this era of music and this topic in particular, like I said earlier, we just have a lot of one-hit wonders, and maybe that's why people think like, this is the 90s were music so overrated, and it's not. It's we all agreed that even with at least for the most part, even with the honorable mentions and our selections, we do like songs from each of the bands at least. It's not like we're completely, or except for maybe, I don't know, there's a few bands that you were like, no, but there might be one or two bands that you said they're like, you don't like any Nine Inch Nails songs. That's fine. I'm not telling you have to, but
the only band I don't like, I'm just not a Pearl Jam fan or Nine Inch Nails. I mean, like, I want to fuck you like an animal. I mean, I felt that when he said that. I felt that.
Sure you did.
Let's spend the last few minutes, guys. Any suggestions? And we've been off for a few weeks. Suggest movies, TV, sports, anything on your mind?
White Lotus.
Yes, great show.
I've been watching. I'm gonna sound like a fucking nerd right now, but I just finished watching the Willow series on Disney Plus, and I'm a Willow nerd. I loved Willow when I was a kid in the '80s, and the new series on Disney Plus didn't disappoint. I really loved that. I saw that, and I saw White Lotus, the first season and the second season, which is really good. A lot of twists and turns and crazy shit, especially if you're married or you have a significant other. It's so fucked up. Twists and turns. Yeah. And I saw the first episode of Hunter season 2, which is pretty good with Al Pacino and that whole they're hunting Nazi things TV show. Pretty good, pretty cool. I really like the first season. I'm excited to see what happens on the second season.
When we finish up this episode, you just go to your room and go play Star Trek, Urkel.
What about you, Joseph? Anything?
Like I said, I watched 3 movies. I watched Old, that M. Night Shyamalan movie. It took me forever to finally watch it. I do like those. I do think his movies are cool, and so that one, obviously, there's a twist. So
Old, yes,
it was pretty decent. I saw Hustle, that Adam Sandler movie, the basketball one.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
Pretty good movie.
Like it. Yeah,
and one that I just decided I took a chance on because Bob was talking about White Lotus so much, and he mentioned, because he knows I'm an Aubrey Plaza fan, I saw Emily the Criminal. I thought it was actually pretty good.
Cool,
I heard it's a good movie. It's a show. It's a show or movie?
No, it's
was that the one where she's a movie? Yeah, where she's a nun.
No. That's the.
She's a nun in that one, which is the one where she's a nun with the guns.
None with the guns. I don't know. She's a nun in another movie. There's a movie, a period movie where they're nuns, but. Yeah. No. This is like it takes place like nowadays, and because like Bob says, she's such a unusual. It's all an act. I think it is. I think she's just got the whole world fooled. It was weird to see her actually play a role like, I guess, normal, where she's not being quirky or not being trying to funny or not trying to be rude or anything, like actually playing a movie. It was a good movie. I thought it was a good movie, and I just started watching Letterkenny, so. That's what I'm got going on right now. I should have watched more.
Kenny, if you're out there, he's reading your letter.
I was watching The White Lotus with my wife, and by the way, when I told her I picked Dave Matthews Band, she told me, "You're gonna lose. You're crazy. Don't pick that band. Get yourself out of that episode." I was like, "No."
Have you seen both seasons? I'm sorry.
I'm in season 2. I'm about two episodes. Yeah, White Lotus. I've seen the whole season 1. Loved it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll talk. Yeah. We'll talk more once you finish. I want to see.
I watched the Orville as well. I finally watched the most.
Thanks for nerd alert. You're telling me to watch Star Trek and you're watching the Orville. Goddamn.
Seth MacFarlane.
You're the one that said I feel like a nerd. That's why I was just making a joke, asshole.
Thanks for reminding me, Joseph. Seth MacFarlane. Joseph sent us a clip yesterday of the season premiere, I think, or mid-season premiere, Family Guy. They borrowed. Well, most recent episode of Family Guy, and they used a joke we used on one of our podcasts. And I told Joseph, send me the clip. So send me the clip, Joseph, so I could post it. And then I'm going to post our audio clip. So Family Guy sort of riffed on a joke we used. So we were like, is somebody listening, or is it just pure coincidence? I'm sure it's coincidence.
Hopefully Seth MacFarlane likes our shit. Once he hears that Randy didn't like Dave Matthews, you're probably going to lose him forever, though.
So if you're listening, writers, give us a job. Anyway, thank you guys so much.
Man. Give us some slack. Cut us some slack. Help us out.
So happy to be back. And that's our show, everyone. Listeners, hit us up and let us know who is your most overrated. Who do you think is the most overrated 90s band? Most importantly, let us know what you think about the show. You may reach us at formidableopponents@gmail.com and follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all social media by searching for Formidable Opponents. I'm screwing up here. Okay, we want to thank Creative Little Pill for her great artwork. Please follow her on Instagram. She's got some big things coming up. She's got a shop. Bob, do you want to talk a little bit about what Creative Little Pill has going on?
She's got a shop going on, so she's selling like pint glasses and coffee mugs and hoodies and t-shirts with a bunch of cool little logos and artwork that she's doing. She's got like this loteria thing going on right now. The like lottery cards, like bingo cards, like Mexican bingo cards. That's pretty cool. She's got a lot of cool artwork, man. So check her out. She's actually going to open up a shop for us, for free for us. So we'll be selling some Formidable Opponents, pint glasses for your beer, mugs for coffee, hoodies, t-shirts, cool shit like that. With a bunch of, we're trying to come up with a few good logos. I hope y'all like. We have our faces, and we have our faces with the goat, and then we have the goat logo. I think that's pretty cool. I think it's a lot of fun. Hopefully y'all like it, or you think it's at least fucking funny, so you buy something from us. We're not making a lot of money from this, folks. We just like, if you could buy something of ours and you could post it on your Instagram or your Facebook or your Twitter or wherever, TikTok, whatever the fuck you got, dude, that'd be really, really great to kind of push us forward. We're not trying to be millionaires here. We're just trying to like make it a little bit, right? We're trying to push ourselves so we can get a bigger audience. We help more people listen to us. And if you can enjoy a cold beer drinking out of a Formidable Opponents pint glass, that'd be pretty cool.
Well said. And please rate and review us on Apple and Spotify. That really helps us out. Join us next episode as we will debate and discuss best 90s country. We're doing country song next week.
Yeah.
So for Bob and Joseph, this is Randall. We'll see you all next week.
You're so fucking special, bro.
Just a creep.